think this NXT conclave is looking at upcoming trends for India in the future. Now, I have to say that Germany-India is a trend that is quite around for quite a while already, so it's not new, but it's upcoming, and I think we are well positioned for the future. You might have, followed last year's Germany Mahotsav, Germany-India Mahotsav here in Delhi, where we had a fantastic series of bilateral interactions between politicians and from both sides, and that was culminating in the intergovernmental consultations in October last year. We had a series of very, very interesting military exercises together with the Indian Army, and we have this wonderful thing which we call the Green and Sustainable Development Partnership, where we work together with the Indian side on so many urging issues, so relevant issues to fight climate change. Now, let me give you 3 good reasons why this partnership will, in the years to come, going on a next level. First of all, I think business is super important. We have 2,200 German companies here in India, and the number is growing. Why? Because India becomes a more and more attractive place to invest, to come to, and to get India's expertise, get the people of India's super well-trained and educated knowledge in many, many ways. So I think we'll have, in the years to come, a bigger German investment here and engagement here on the business side. And I want to put a particular focus on all what is relevant for the renewables, for a future of a green and sustainable planet, where Germany is a leader technology-wise and India is catching up quickly. So that's something where I think our 2 countries will work together hand in hand. Now, second point is a military and defense partnership, which is very, very important. I think in the last years we have seen that the German and Indian armies and armed forces are discovering each other with more interest, and we had this wonderful series of joint exercises last year. That means also that we will be working much more closely defense purchases. That's also a very, very good and new development. And my third point is, and that's maybe the most the newest of all points, is the question of migration. So India is a country with a growing diaspora in Germany. We have now 280,000 Indians living in Germany, 50,000 Indian students in Germany. And as we are in need for skilled workforce, as we are in need for many, many groups of professions, from IT engineers through caregivers and nurses, we will, reach out to the Indian side to get a very, very sound, good migration from India to Germany in these areas. And that's something where, I see an enormous potential for the relation between the 2 countries, the people-to-people contact and the sort of awareness raising in both countries on the other partner. So for me, that is basically the essence of the trend, Bharat, Germany, India, Germany, for the years to come. I'm very happy to be in the midst of it and as ambassador part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Ackermann, and it is always a delight to speak with you. And those wonderful remarks, and we are going to discuss and dive deep into them, particularly when it comes to Bharat and German relations and what is going to be the future of it. My first question, let's get straight to it. India is on its way to be the 3rd largest economy. It is going to displace Germany, say the aim is 2030. What are your views in terms of a larger collaboration that India and Germany can have and forge further?
So I have to say that we are eagerly awaiting India to, overtake us in this statistics, because I think this is a country of 1.4 billion inhabitants with a strong and growing economy, and I think it's only natural that it moves up on this ladder. So Germany you should not forget, is of the size of Tamil Nadu population-wise. So I think I would not be surprised if in the years to come India will overtake Germany. But that means also this growing and strong economy means room for more partnership, more engagement, and India through its growing economy becomes more and more interesting for German business. That's what I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. I think the more the Indian industry grows, the more the Indian private sector becomes global, the better it is for our bilateral trade relations.
Right, absolutely. It's also interesting that the German elections have just concluded. There has been a conservative party that has won the election. There is going to be the new Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz. How do you see the relations between both the countries moving forward under this new leadership?
So, as you know, the elections took place last Sunday. We are in the first steps of what we call the coalition building. The Conservative Party, who has won the elections, needs a coalition partner to get elected in parliament, and that will happen now in the weeks to come. It will take a certain while, maybe a month or two, but at the end of the day, we will have a stable and very sound government, which is a center government, clearly. And therefore, I say that with my political experience, is that there won't be a change when it comes to the German-Indian relations. So you remember that a very, very long time, it was the German-India relations were dominated by Prime Minister Modi from the Indian side, but also Chancellor Angela Merkel from the German side. Now she is from this conservative party who has won the election, so I'm very, very convinced that her successor in the chancellery, namely Friedrich Merz, will also continue this very, very dedicated, friendly course when it comes to Germany and India. So we'll see, I think, a very India-friendly government, although it has not been built up yet so far, I have to say.
I do want to delve into the domestic politics. And what do you think has brought about this dramatic change from a liberal party to a conservative, where there has been an exceptional percentage of people who have come out and voted this time around?
So I wouldn't call it a dramatic change. There was always two parties who came with candidates for the chancellery, the Social Democrats and the Conservative Party. So it's basically a normal anti-incumbency vote, as it were. But what is dramatic, of course, and there you are right, is that the result of the elections has, for the first time, 20% of going to a far-right party who will not be part of this government. And that's a new phenomenon with which we have to cope. I think what you mentioned, namely that we have a voter turnout of 83%, which is an unheard top of voter turnout, is quite fabulous and shows that people really do, that democracy matters to people. People are really committed to go to vote, and they really are ready to express their political affiliation or their political wishes or their discontent also in these elections. So I think it is a proof of a very sound democracy if you have 83% who go to the urns.
Talking about elections, whether it's in Germany, you talk about Italy, the presidential elections in the US concluded, and it is again far-right or right-of-center ideology that is taking precedence across the globe. What are your views on it?
So it's a trend. We are talking trends. That's clearly a trend. You see that not only in the big countries you mentioned, you see it also in Finland, you see it in the Netherlands. So there is a sort of a trend going towards extreme or far-right parties. Now, in my country, that's a difficult trend. I have to admit that very clearly. Because of Germany's history, we are particularly careful in trying to avoid an involvement of parties that, are less critical with our own past than others. So, what is normal in the Netherlands, what is normal in Finland, that part of these, that these right-wing parties are working within the government, I don't see that coming very quickly. We have to be very honest with ourselves. It is the expression of an unsatisfied electorate. 20% is a lot. It's every fifth German who voted for an extreme right party, and we have to, I think the task of the new government will be to get these these voters back to the center and to the country, those parties who are more mainstream than the extreme right parties.
Okay, on that note, I'm going to open the floor. There are a lot of our audience members who have questions to ask you. And Asavri, can we have the first question? Yeah.
Hello, Ambassador. My question is about the US and Europe. Now, are we witnessing a rupture between the US and Europe? And of course, in that context, what is the future of NATO and the Ukraine war?
The rupture between Europe and America?
Right. Okay, now I got it. Sorry, I didn't understand. I didn't hear it very clearly. So it's no secret that, you know, the first contacts with the US administration have been a little rough. It was not, it was different from previous administrations' contacts. I have to state, however, that, you know, the partnership between Germany, the West, and the United States is a very deep and old one. It has grown over decades, so this will not disappear from one moment to the other. We might have disagreements. We always had, actually. We might differ on some views, but I think there will be a very steady contact between Washington and Berlin, and I think the new chancellor will invest a lot of his time, a lot of his foreign policy expertise in solidifying this partnership between between Western Europe, Germany, and the US. Now, I also see NATO as a very, very important military alliance that will not disappear from the soil of this earth. It will be prevailing, but we have to say very clearly, and I think that is, you know, the talk of the town in Europe, is that Europe has to you know, beef up its own security, and we have to maybe shoulder more burden in this military alliance than before. But I am very confident that NATO will survive.
Okay, we also have another of our audience members who wants to ask you a question.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Earlier this morning, we had Prime Minister Harper talk about the importance of democratic blocs and cooperation between countries with democratic values. But what is the proper democratic response when a democratic election yields results that are unpalatable to traditional parties? Are these results outside of the realm of democracy? Or if AfD were to win an election in the future, would that be outside the realm of democracy? What is the proper democratic response?
So I can only speak for my country. As you have seen, we have a right-wing party, in parts extremist party, that in some of the state elections get a very, very big share of the vote, and now they do also in the general elections. They are there, they get the share of the votes, they are in parliament, so nobody you know, puts them in jail, everybody can say whatever he or she wants. Whether they will be part of a government, that's a different question. It's up to the parties to decide with whom they will side for a coalition. And it was very clear that the incoming Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, had no intention whatsoever to bring them in a common you know, government, and that is his absolute right. And I think we should, you know, if a party wins elections, 30% for the Conservative Party, it's up to them with whom they sit down for a government. In Germany, there is a firewall, as we call it. We don't want these extremist parties in the government now. What happens in the future remains to be seen, but at the same time, they have a very strong voice in parliament, in the national parliament, as well in state parliament. So I think there is no, it is completely wrong to say that they are, you know, put aside, or that they are not having any right to express themselves. No, they have, but they have not been convincing in, you know, getting other parties to join hands with them. So, you know, they should work on that, I guess.
Do we have any more questions? Yes, Asabi, can you hand the gentleman the mic?
Is it on? Yeah, all right. There's so many terms, far right, conservative, especially as a German living in India and having lived in the US and the UK, I find these terms are different in each country and at each time. And given the problematic history of Germany, I don't think the term conservatism is a good term. How would you define it?
Conservatism. How I would define conservatism? It's a political trend that values traditions, that values grown traditions in many ways, be that religious or be that family traditions or be that values of social values that have been developed over the decades. I agree with you. In every country, in every democracy, it means different things. And I think that's not a bad thing. You have to respect democracies. The American democracy, the French democracy is different from the German one, let alone the Indian democracy. And I think every democracy has to decide by itself what they want to do with parties that are basically on the fringes of the political spectrum. And in my country, it's more difficult than in many others.
Okay, that's all the time. Okay, I have a question from PM Tony Abbott as well.
Thanks very much, Ambassador. Look, I'm intrigued by the constant reference to the alternative for Deutschland as far right and extreme right. Why is it extreme right, in inverted commas, to want immigration controlled and migrants to be properly integrated into the mainstream of German society?
So this is a very specific and detailed question. I can go in details now. I think we don't have the time for that, but it is clear that the far-right Alternative for Deutschland as a party has made statements that are basically in conflict with our basic law, with our constitutional law. That regards migration, that regards also the question of how to deal with energy provision, and they have made extreme statements without offering solutions, I would say. But that's the right of any democratic party, and they are apparently democratic, otherwise they would not be in parliament. So they are in parliament, they have a very strong parliamentary group, but whether other parties want to join hands with them, it's up to the other parties. So I think that's all I can say. I feel that this is a decision that is up to any policy maker in the country where the parties get voted to.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador Ackermann. It's, like I said, always a pleasure. Insightful comments that have been made by you, and thank you once again for joining us.
It was a pleasure.
on
Thank you,
Next.
Megan. Thank you very much.